Hello, and welcome to Leeds Echoes. In this series, I'll be exploring different aspects of Leeds' rich history. Each episode, I'll tell a different story, whether it's a particular building, an entire industry, a lost transportation network. But most importantly, I want to try and figure out how the people that lived and breathed this history felt. What did the local butcher think? Or your neighbour? What did the city sound like? And what did it smell like? These are the kind of things I really want to explore in this series, and I'm really excited where the journey's going to take me. Hopefully I'll see some of you on the way. Our work is hard, and dangers are always near. And lucky are we if safely through life we steer. But still the life of a navvy, with its many changes of scene, with a dear old wife, is just the life that suits old Nobby Green. Now there's an easy to forget fact about canals. They're man-made, and they predate the railways, and essentially all mechanisation as we know it. These everlasting trenches of water were dug by hand, and there is one in particular that truly defies modern expectation. The Leeds-Liverpool Canal is Britain's longest single man-made waterway. It not only covers a distance of 127 miles, it crosses the Pennines. And I cannot emphasize enough how much of an astounding feat of engineering this is. 200 years later, in the 1970s, engineers battled for years to reproduce this feat with the M62. The conditions so harsh and brutal they repeatedly scuppered and destroyed mid-20th century technology. Now imagine doing this in 1770, with nothing but your bare hands and a shovel, moving millions of tons of earth to carve a trench 12.8 meters wide and 1.5 meters deep that ran 127 miles from Leeds to Liverpool. And who carried out this Herculean task? Well, to start with, many of them were local farm labourers, looking for secure work as more and more people abandoned agriculture as the Industrial Revolution spread. As more and more canals were built, these early labourers began to develop greater and greater skill. This quickly became obvious when more experienced men were brought in alongside local workers during canal construction. And so the navigator, or navvy, was born. An experienced navvy could apparently shift 12 cubic yards of earth each day. That's the same as digging a trench 3 feet wide, 3 feet deep, and 36 feet long every day, usually 7 days a week. And when you think about how difficult it must have been to find a solid 2,500 calories every day, these men become almost superhuman. And where did these men come from? Well, everywhere. It was long believed that they were predominantly Irish, however, recent research has shown little evidence to support this. The nomadic nature of their work, travelling to where the canals were being built, began to create this army of specialised yet anonymous workers. When deaths occurred during construction, investigations could rarely even find people's names. They usually lived in makeshift towns along with the construction. They were often viewed as outsiders by the existing communities they settled near. And whilst in theory being better paid than other labourers, the somewhat convoluted system of various sections of the canal being allocated to various subcontractors actually getting paid could be difficult. Some contractors used to issue tokens in exchange of actual currency, and local shopkeepers often refused to honour them. This is what happened at Stamford Peveril on the Grand Western Canal in 1811. A crowd of 300 angry men were gathered in the village, unable to gain goods or services. They apparently decided to take their anger out on a local man called Mr. Sharv, who panicked, took out his pistol, and shot into the crowd, killing 2 men. The end result was understandably a major riot. So the canals were Herculean feats of engineering from design to execution, and the Leeds-Liverpool Canal is arguably the greatest example of this. The 5 rise locks at Bingley and the 7 arch aqueduct at Dowley Gap being just 2 stunning examples of 18th century mind over matter on the waterway's 127-mile snake across the country. And why were the canals built? Well, because there wasn't a road network outside of the one the Romans had left us a millennia before. There were no trains. How else would the Industrial Revolution be fueled by the millions of tons of coal that it needed? With all but the most basic of technology around you, what an ingenious solution. Float your goods to market. By 1777, enough of the canal was complete to essentially connect Leeds directly with Liverpool via man-made waterway. Over the following decades, villages, towns, mills, entire industries sprung up along the route. By the start of the 20th century, the canals were a core part of British industry, and for a lot of people, a core part of daily life. I'm going to read the account of a journalist for the Yorkshire Evening Post who spent a morning on the canals in July of 1919. It paints a richer picture than I ever could. A black, irregular bulk, standing out in sharply cut relief against a sky where the moon dodged in and out between drifting cloud banks. Here and there, a light blinking out of the darkness. That was Leeds. Black water at my feet, and behind, a great dim building where spluttering arc lights cast long, mysterious shadows among the bales and barrows piled beneath. That was the dock. A bent figure carrying a lantern, and another huddled in a trench coat, shivering in the damp morning breeze. One was the watchman, the other myself. Alternatively, he told me tales of soldiering in India way back in the 70s, and threw pebbles on the deck of a tug lying at the wharf. Scene, the canal docks, Leeds. Time, 4 a.m. Ultimately, the pebbles produced the desired effect. A very sleepy head came out of a hatchway, and the owner of the head inquired the time. Then it disappeared. Soon, however, another head took its place, and a body followed. The figure, a shapeless mass in the dim light, stumbled along the deck and vanished down another hatchway. Almost immediately there followed queer rumbling sounds and a prolonged hissing. Little waves splashed against the wharf as the boat rocked in time to the engine. "Better come aboard," the first head called to me as it reappeared from the hatchway. "We'll be getting away soon." I jumped down on the deck. The thud of my feet seemed to be a signal for the whole crew to come on deck. There were 3 of them, captain, mate, and engineer. They were too busy to talk, so I dumped my haversack upon a cold hawser and looked about me. The moon had fled in the early morning light, and the black bulks on the canal had gradually resolved themselves into flyboats. They too were beginning to show signs of life. A boatman or 2 appeared on deck, exchanging remarks with each other and with the tugman. I saw a woman's head protruding from a hatch. She regarded me sharply, wondering, no doubt, what I was idling there for. A man came forward with a long boat hook and began pushing the barge away from the wharf. The boat swung out into the stream and floated slowly off. The tug shook as the propeller began to turn. The water roared at the stern, giving off an odour that made me wish for my old gas mask. The canal water in the Leeds district is an awful compound of weird smells. An industrial chemist would feel quite at home here. Gradually, the canal's cargo fell, the last of it passing over its water in the late 70s. Wonderfully, the immensity of their construction, Their sheer permanence has led to them to survive. And in a rare occurrence, something that was perfect in its design for one task in 1777 is now perfect in its design for another in 2020. They are beautiful and elegant sanctuaries for wildlife. They are perfect for tourism. They help regenerate areas and communities if managed well. And we have 127 miles of man-made river to walk, cycle, and enjoy. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Leeds Echoes. If you liked it, let me know, and hopefully there'll be some more soon. In the meantime, stay safe, take care.